All right, so this video I'm going to share 4 things that can really help men have more success, more fulfillment, and more empowerment in online dating, in romance, and even in their life in general. So the first and the most important thing that can save so much time, so much energy expenditure, so much hassle, so much drama, so much conflict is to stop thinking with your dick. Stop the chronic masturbation. Stop feeding into every urge or desire that you might have. Stop looking at porn. Just cut it out. And if you can't, and if that seems unrealistic or that seems overtly difficult, set a plan to gradually over time diminish those behaviors. And I think personally going on the extreme of like no fap and semen retention and all these things often just creates more tension and anxiety and just proves that there's still that underlying dysfunction there. So that in and of itself, trying to regulate these things and have some discipline around these things can be profoundly educational and transformative. And you'll see how just how much of just a primate you are, and how much of just you have no real power or control over yourself. And because if you don't have power or control over those things, you'll be very easily manipulated, very easily swayed, very easily controlled, very easily emotionally thrown off kilter. So developing discipline and awareness and understanding around this is extremely important. The other benefit is that when you're in a dating context, just remove sex from the table. Present and show up in a way as which you're not even interested in having sex in that other person, because you're interested in actually getting to know the person. You're actually interested in getting to know who they are, what's their fabric, what are their values, how do they live their life, what experiences have they actually had, and see their actual character, see their actual fabric, see who they actually are as a person. But if you can't do that within yourself, then you're not going to be able to do that in someone else. And if you have no discipline and you're just addicted to porn and chronically masturbating and just being led with your dick, that's going to be hard for you to even manage, because that would make you a hypocrite, meaning you're trying to expect something from another person that you can't even do in yourself. So if you think you can do it in yourself, but you can't, now you're a liar, but you're expecting it from the other person, so you're a liar and a hypocrite, which is an extremely disempowered place to operate from. So then if that's your position, then how can you be surprised when it's not successful, or it produces pretty dysfunctional or unsatisfactory results, or you just continually attract crazy women that are not a good fit? The more you are a slave to that part of yourself, the more drama you will create, the more conflict you create, and the more easily fooled that you will be. And if you approach a dating context with a woman and you just remove sex from the table, you have basically, for a lot of women, unfortunately and sadly and tragically, you've removed their negotiation piece. You've removed their power from the dynamic. Because let's face it, the vast majority of men are just so desperate and thirsty and hungry to get access to sex that they'll kind of put up with anything, do anything, say anything, and just be this kind of low quality person just to get access to this thing. When in reality, that just creates more of the situation that they claim to be against. So if you can approach it in that way and remove that from the table, you will be surprised at how exposed and kind of almost immediately kind of anxious and uncomfortable a lot of women will get, because you've just removed their negotiation piece. You've just taken away their trump card. So the second thing is to actually develop some discipline in addition to what I just talked about, which basically could be going to the gym, could be organizing your life, could be literally anything that challenges you and makes you grow on a regular basis that you continually commit to and make yourself do. So you basically just need to figure out what works for you, what makes sense. And then the third thing would be to find a way to engage in conflict and competition in a healthy way, because we all have this desire. Conflict is a part of life. Competition is a part of life, especially as a man. So we pretty much have 2 options, or 3. I guess we can deny it and repress it and pretend it didn't exist and whatever. So then now we're just frustrated and angry and uncomfortable. or we can actually accept it, acknowledge it, and engage with it within a healthy and constructive way. So that could be through, again, going to the gym. It could be through martial arts. It could be through intellectual endeavors like trying to present your ideas, like in a debate or a public speaking thing, or even on a blog or something online, something that challenges you and actually makes you test your ideas, test your ideals, and test your belief. Because people tend to have standards and morals up until the point there's a good enough opportunity to compromise them. And that's just a sad fact of life. And what I mean by that is guys will have standards and all these things and whatever they say about their life. But then if they meet a girl that's hot enough or stimulates them enough, they'll compromise. Same thing, women will have all these standards. I expect this from guys. I want this from guys. And then I'm not going to do this unless they do that. But the fact of the matter is, if a guy's hot enough or rich enough or stimulating enough in whatever way, they will immediately compromise it. That's just human nature. It's not gender based. It's not anything based other than the fact of being a human. So the next thing is to, which I guess would be what, 3 or 4, whatever at this point, I don't remember. Sex and alcohol and strangers is a dangerous combination. So I personally am not really a fan of drinking. I've actually never been drunk. I've never been to bars. I've never partied. I've never gone to clubs. Never done any of those things. I've also never had casual sex, never had a one night stand, never had a hookup, never had any of those things. And I actually, a lot of people I talk to, a lot of their drama, a lot of their conflict, a lot of the nonsense, it involves typically these 3 things: strangers, alcohol, and sex. So if you can maybe just remove some of those things from your life, boom, automatically a lot better. And the last and one of the most important things is to live your life and try to be as kind and considerate and polite as much as possible, and do your best to do no harm, which a lot of people will say. But the thing is, you can't actually do that unless you're coming from a place of strength. If you try to do it from a place that is not strong, you will build resentment, you will get angry and bitter and frustrated, or you'll just be manipulative and weak and disingenuous, which is also not attractive. Because this is the most important flip side of it. In addition to everything that I've just said before, which all kind of ties together and builds together, this is the most important part of it, which is also don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and speak in a clear and direct manner. Clearly state your ideas, clearly state your parameters, clearly state what's what. Establishing a foundation and being clear and precise with your words, with your language, and strong, but not personally attacking anyone, not being diminutive, not being insulting, not, using stupid swear words unless it's appropriate or whatever things. Be clear and direct and strong in your communication, and stand up and have that voice, have that fabric, and have that empowerment and flexibility to communicate in both ways when necessary. Meaning, vast majority of time, you're just trying to be polite, considerate, and do no harm, and be, just a good person for people. But then, of course, if your boundaries are pushed, parameters are violated, or moral codes are broken, then you should not be afraid to actually stand up for yourself, because we need to be able to have both. And if we're just stuck in one or the other, we're either going to be a pushover, people pleaser, kind of disingenuine, nauseating, weak person, or we're just going to be kind of a jerk. Meaning, if you're like always, this is what it is, you're like always super strong with how you're communicating, it's really going to be kind of off-putting. So you really need to have both and have the flexibility and empowerment to do both.